In a world governed by the strict laws of heroes and monsters, one mage is about to break the most fundamental rule of all. It starts with a simple gesture, a reaching hand that shouldn't exist in a war for survival. This is Velverosa, the Demon Queen. She is the ultimate boss at the end of the world, a being of pure terror who is currently completely failing to keep her composure. Her terrifying aura is no match for the most unexpected weapon in the human arsenal, a sincere, unwavering crush that has left the ruler of demons speechless. Mallory, a persistent young mage, isn't looking for legendary loot or the glory of a dragon slayer. She's found a weakness in the queen's armor that has nothing to do with magic. The queen's response is a desperate attempt to reclaim her dignity, screaming a rejection that carries more force than her deadliest spells. It's the kind of blow that would end any normal hero's journey, delivered with enough magical pressure to level a mountain. But Mallory is far from normal. Even as she's blasted out of the tower, she leaves with a smile, knowing she's finally made the queen blink. The demon tower rings with the sound of another failed romantic conquest, a recurring chaotic ritual that has the entire kingdom talking. Back inside her inner sanctum, Velverosa is left fuming, her authority undermined by the heat rising to her own cheeks. She rants to the empty air, trying to convince herself that this human is just a nuisance, an insolent brat who doesn't understand the gravity of their war. Yet she can't stop thinking about that confident, nauseatingly cute face. If this girl thinks she can win over a queen, she has another thing coming. Her demonic subjects can only watch in confusion as their terrifying leader loses her mind over a mortal who should have been a snack for the tower's guards. The war between humans and demons is supposed to be eternal, but Mallory is busy rewriting the rules of engagement into something much more intimate. To understand how a mage ended up flirting with the end boss, we have to look back at the top of the tower, where the silence of the night usually belongs to the dead. The battle had been fierce. This wasn't a game. It was a clash of titans that left the very stone of the fortress scorched and broken. Mallory was at her limit, her mana drained and her breath coming in ragged gasps as the weight of the queen's power bore down on her. She had been thrown back, sliding across the cold tiles of the throne room, a lone survivor of a party that had already been sent to the respawn points. The smoke cleared to reveal a pair of heels clicking against the floor. In this world, when you lose to the queen, you lose everything. Velverosa looked down with the cold disdain of a predator. To her, humans were fragile things that only knew how to take and destroy. She stood tall, a monument of demonic perfection, wondering why this particular human kept coming back to her tower like a moth to a flame. She offered a simple, brutal choice: give up and crawl back to the capital, or face the finality of her wrath. But Mallory just grinned through the blood and dust. In the face of absolute power, she chose absolute defiance. She wasn't kneeling in defeat. She was gathering the strength for a confession that would be louder than any explosion. Looking up at the most dangerous woman in existence, the mage prepared a blow that no shield or barrier could ever hope to block. Velverosa waited for a counterattack, a hidden spell, or a desperate curse. She expected hatred, but she found something far more terrifying. Mallory clenches her fist over her heart, anchoring her resolve. She isn't here to save the world, she's here to win a heart. The queen's eyes narrow as she senses a shift in the air. For the first time, the roles of predator and prey are beginning to blur. With the tower shaking and the moon watching, Mallory delivers her final vow. She will return, and she will make the Demon Queen hers. In a world where death is just a temporary setback, we find ourselves at the Faustina Church. It's a place of sanctuary, but also a place where the supernatural rules of life and death are strictly enforced. Meet Sarek, a swordsman who has seen far too much of the respawn process. He sits in the quiet pews, waiting for a companion who seems to have a habit of finding trouble. The church functions on a cold, universal law: no gold, no revive. Scattered coffins fill the hall, serving as grim reminders that even in a magical realm, salvation has a price tag that many simply can't afford. The head priest is less than pleased to see a healthy adventurer taking up space. Sarek remains calm, explaining that he's simply waiting for a friend to make her inevitable return from the grave. With a heavy thud that echoes through the stone hall, Mallory's coffin arrives. This is the moment Sarek was waiting for, though the look on his face suggests he's already bracing for the headache to follow. When the priest learns that Mallory fell while facing the Demon Queen single-handedly, his greed turns to genuine pity. Assuming she must be deeply traumatized by such a brutal defeat, he prepares a revival spell for the poor thing. Sarek doesn't bother to correct him. He knows that if trauma were the only issue, his life would be much simpler. He prepares himself for the reality behind Mallory's latest death. As the life flows back into her, Mallory doesn't wake up screaming. Instead, she's blushing, lost in a daze as she recalls the cold, piercing gaze of the Demon Queen who just ended her life. Sarek watches with a hollow expression. In this strange world, Mallory is a unique anomaly, an adventurer who views a lethal encounter with a monster queen not as a nightmare, but as a dream come true. The cycle begins anew. Before she's even fully out of her coffin, Mallory is begging to go back. She isn't seeking revenge or glory. She just wants another glimpse of the woman who killed her. In a world where the boundary between human and demon is drawn in blood, conflict isn't just a possibility, it's the only constant. For generations, both sides have been locked in a cycle of violence that seems to have no end. At the heart of this chaos stands the Demon Tower, a 100-level monolith that serves as the ultimate proving ground for those brave enough to enter. It is the fortress of the monsters, a place where many enter but few ever return. Every 15 floors, a powerful demon general guards the path, ensuring only the strongest can even dream of reaching the summit where the Demon Queen herself awaits on her throne. For most adventurers, the mission is simple and brutal. Climb to the summit, take the Demon Lord's head, and bring peace to humanity through a final, decisive victory. But one young mage is about to flip the script. She isn't here for glory, and she certainly isn't here to play the hero in the way the world expects. Mallory Crowett has done the impossible, reaching the highest level and standing before the throne of the most powerful being in existence. Queen Velverosa looks down at her with a chilling, curious smile, asking the girl if she's truly ready to do what every other human has failed to achieve: take her life. But Mallory's reaction is a complete break from tradition. There's no bloodlust or fear in her eyes, only a stubborn, confused pout that leaves the queen baffled. With a blush creeping onto her face, she insists that the queen looks much better with her head exactly where it is, preferring beauty over a trophy. For the first time in centuries, the ruler of demons is speechless, stunned into silence by the sheer audacity and strange logic of this human intruder. Recovering her cold composure, Velverosa demands to know the truth. Why would an adventurer climb 100 floors of death and shadows if not for glory? Mallory introduces herself properly as a mage from the Adventurers Academy, making it clear that every step she took was calculated for this very moment. She issues a formal challenge. If she wins the battle, she doesn't want the throne. She wants the queen herself to become her lover. Overwhelmed by the weight of her own confession, Mallory lets out a desperate, heartfelt cry of devotion for the woman she has spent her life chasing. The response is swift and scorching. Velverosa doesn't do romance. She does destruction. Mallory's first attempt at winning the queen's heart ends in a literal pillar of fire. Back at the Adventurers Academy, the air is thick with the ambition of students training to become the world's next great heroes. But for the top-ranked mage, the curriculum is a bit unconventional. While everyone else studies monster weaknesses to claim glory, Mallory is busy drafting a very specific kind of battle plan, one titled Strategy, Love, Love. Her best friend, Sarek, can only watch in silence as the Academy's brightest prodigy descends further into her own personal brand of madness. In this world, adventurers are expected to sharpen their blades to end the Demon Queen's reign. Mallory, however, is sharpening her defensive stats just to survive the Queen's hello. Sarek has seen the cycle repeat more times than he can count. He finally asks the question, how many times has she actually thrown herself at the Queen now? Mallory pauses, genuinely having to count. It wasn't 10. She's pretty sure it was her 12th time dying at the hands of her crush. To Sarek, this isn't dedication, it's borderline harassment. But Mallory doesn't see the problem with a little persistent, lethal pursuit. In a society that rewards the Queen's head with gold and fame, Mallory stands alone. She doesn't want the crown, she wants the woman wearing it. It's not like she hasn't tried the traditional route. She sent gifts and letters, only to be told the Queen's generals burn them without a second thought. If romance won't work, then power is the only answer. She'll have to force her way into the Queen's presence until she's finally noticed. Her resolve is terrifying. She won't let another adventurer get the killing blow. She's going to save the supposed villain of this world and put a ring on her finger. It's a heroic speech for a very unheroic goal, and the sheer intensity of her delusion is enough to give anyone a headache. Sarek can only sigh. The disappointment is heavy. This is the person the world expects to lead the next generation of protectors. The faculty is practically grooming her to be the savior of humanity, completely unaware that their star pupil is the Demon Queen's biggest fan. Sarek realizes just how much damage the truth would do. If the school ever found out about her obsession, the scandal would be legendary. Mallory catches the look in his eyes. She knows a threat when she sees one, and she isn't about to let her reputation go down without a fight. But Mallory didn't get to the top of the rankings by being defenseless. She has her own set of secret intelligence. If he dares to leak her secret, she'll reveal his. A very specific, very detailed obsession with snake women in hosiery. The sketches are undeniably well done, which only makes the blackmail more effective. Sarek's dignity is officially on the line. The two top students of the Academy end their study session not with a handshake, but with a frantic, screaming chase through the hallowed halls. To the other students, it looks like a healthy rivalry between geniuses. Little do they know, the future of the world rests on a girl who loves a demon and a boy who loves lamias. In this world, the ultimate prize is the head of the Demon Queen, Velvarosa. 50 million gold. Enough gold to live 10 lifetimes in luxury, dangling just out of reach at the top of a tower. Add to that the eternal gratitude of the kingdom and the title of world savior, and you have a quest that every greedy blade in the land is dying to complete. It's a literal scramble. Every day, fresh-faced warriors rush into the dark, fueled by dreams of gold and glory that they'll likely never see. But dreams usually end in the dirt. Most adventurers don't even make it past the first floor before the tower's generals turn them into nothing more than cautionary tales. For the queen herself, this cycle has become a tedious bore. Another day, another group of failures, and a throne room that feels more like a prison of solitude. Yet there is one anomaly. A single human who has defied the rules of the tower 13 times already, and her footsteps are echoing through the hall again. Mallory is back, skipping into the presence of the world's greatest threat like she's visiting a childhood friend. She's alone today, and her cheerfulness is enough to make even a demon sweat. She claims she couldn't find anyone to join her party, but the way she says it makes it clear that being alone with the queen was always the real objective. There is a genuine blush on her face. She would rather face the most dangerous woman in existence in total isolation than have a team of heroes at her back. Velverosa can't wrap her head around it. This human has died by her hand more times than she can count, yet there isn't a trace of fear left in those eyes. Instead of drawing a sword, Mallory reaches for a hug. It takes a high-level defensive spell just to keep the human's terrifying affection at a distance. It's exhausting. Velverosa is supposed to be the nightmare of humanity, yet here she is, sighing at a mage who treats her like a schoolyard crush. Curiosity finally wins out. How does a mere student reach the top floor this fast? Mallory proudly lists her buffs, but it sounds more like she's prepping for a date than a siege. But the real mystery is the generals. How does she bypass the legendary guardians who have slaughtered thousands of seasoned veterans? The truth is far more embarrassing for the demon realm. Mallory doesn't fight her way through. She greets the monsters like neighbors. It turns out, if you show up 13 times with a smile, even the most bloodthirsty demon starts to treat you like a regular customer. They're literally holding the door open for her. Velverosa's blood is boiling. Her elite guard, the terrifying monsters meant to defend the sanctity of her throne, are basically acting as Mallory's personal concierge. Mallory tries to play it off as a simple misunderstanding, but the damage is done. The Queen's professional pride is taking a serious hit. It's not just one general either. The entire tower seems to have a soft spot for the stubborn human. They aren't trying to kill her anymore. They're just checking her progress. The realization hits Velverosa like a physical blow. Her entire demonic army has been compromised, not by magic or steel, but by one girl's relentless, cheerful obsession. In a world where the Demon Tower is meant to be a grave for any human foolish enough to enter, Queen Velverosa is facing a unique crisis. Her legendary generals, the absolute peak of monsterkind, are failing their only job, keeping one persistent human mage named Mallory away from the throne room. The sound of Velverosa's hand slamming against the stone table echoes like a thunderclap. She didn't build a kingdom of shadows just to have it turned into a playground, and her patience has officially reached its limit. She demands an explanation for the breakdown in tower hierarchy. The generals were stationed on their respective floors to be an insurmountable wall of death, not a welcoming committee for a girl who treats the demon realm like a social club. The lower-ranked generals, Malathia, Fen, and Conoleth, look more like scolded children than world-ending threats. In this society, failing to stop a human is a disgrace, yet they seem remarkably unbothered by their recent defeats. Even the heavy hitters like Burks and Faust can't seem to find their courage. When the most powerful beings in the demon hierarchy start avoiding eye contact with their queen, it's clear the social rules of the tower have been compromised. Faust tries to rationalize the incompetence, arguing that there's no point in a repetitive struggle against an opponent who has already proven they can win. It's a logic that treats the queen's defense like a tedious game, driving her into a quiet, simmering fury. Malathia calls up Mallory's recorded stats to analyze the anomaly. While Mallory is undeniably talented for a student, her level shouldn't be enough to clear the high-tier floors. There are strange, non-combat traits in her profile that suggest her true power isn't found in her spellbook. One by one, the generals offer the same hollow excuses. They claim she's too strong, that she caught them off guard, but the sheer number of failures suggest a coordinated effort to let the human pass through the tower's defenses. Fen, the wolf general, is the most transparent. She stutters through her report, admitting that Mallory could only beat her if the girl truly put her heart into it. It's a confession of a social bond, not a tactical defeat. Velverosa sees right through the hesitation. The power gap between a general and a student is supposed to be absolute. If the tower's rules are being ignored, it means her own subordinates are prioritizing the humans' whims over their queen's commands. Before the queen can enact a brutal punishment, Melithea steps in. The Naga general has always been the most observant of the group, and she knows exactly which buttons to press to redirect the queen's wrath. She takes full responsibility for the security breach, wearing a calm, almost knowing smile. In a realm where strength is the only currency, Melithea is playing a much more subtle game of psychological manipulation. The truth is finally laid bare. Melithea actively encouraged the other generals to let Mallory pass. She has turned the tower into a revolving door, convinced that the human mage is the only thing currently keeping the demon realm from stagnating. She claims this blatant betrayal of the tower's purpose is actually for the queen's own benefit. It's a bold move, challenging the very foundation of their militaristic society. Melithea reminds her of the years before Mallory arrived, when Velverosa sat on a lonely throne, suffocating under the weight of her own absolute power. Back then, no one was strong enough to even reach the top floor, leaving the queen in a state of eternal, hollow boredom. But now, the queen has a constant visitor. Melithea teases that cute little Mallory is just here to play, and the sudden flush on Velverosa's face reveals a vulnerability that no hero has ever managed to exploit. The queen's denial is loud and desperate, but the generals have already seen the truth. They realize their queen hasn't been conquered by magic or steel, but the one thing the tower wasn't built to defend against: genuine companionship. In a world where humans and demons share nothing but hatred, the demon castle is facing a new kind of threat. It's not an army, but a single human mage with a talent for kindness. Even this orc, long shunned by his own kind for his pale skin, found his defenses melting away after a single compliment. The sentiment is spreading like a fever through the ranks. Warriors who should be sharpening their blades are instead debating the merits of the human girl's personality. Even those who remain skeptical find themselves wavering, their loyalty to the crown clashing with the undeniable charm of their constant visitor. For others, the corruption is simpler. Human trends and trinkets are a small price to pay for a truce that none of them expected. But Queen Velverosa is far from amused. Her footsteps thunder through the palace as she fumes over the sudden soft-heartedness of her court. To her, this isn't just a nuisance, it's a dangerous lapse in memory. She reminds them of the brutal history between their species, the hunting, the looting, and the displacement. Yet her generals only offer excuses, insisting that Mallory is somehow different from the rest of her kind. It defies logic. Vel has examined the girl's stats herself, searching for some magical influence or a scattered skill set that could explain the sudden devotion. There has to be a hidden passive skill at work, something invisible that bypasses their instincts and targets their hearts. Because this feeling of being slowly dismantled by a human's presence, it's a phantom pain she's felt before. The memory of that woman always lingers in the corners of her mind, a hooded figure who refused to play the role of the enemy. Back then, Vel was small, her horns barely grown, and the world was a much more terrifying place. That woman didn't cower or strike, she only watched with a knowing smirk that seemed to see right through the young demon's defenses. There was a gentleness in her voice when she spoke Vel's name, a sound that shouldn't have belonged in a war zone. It was a moment of profound confusion, a crack in the foundation of everything Vel had been taught to believe about the world of men. With a single playful gesture, that woman had humanized herself, leaving an imprint on Vel that decades of combat couldn't erase. Now, history is repeating itself. Between the ghost of her past and the persistent mage of her present, the queen's patience is at its breaking point. The question gnaws at her. Why? Why does this girl keep coming back to be killed? And why does she claim to harbor feelings for a monster? Vel tells herself she isn't interested, that her curiosity is purely tactical. even as her own tale betrays her growing agitation. She is a queen built on steel and fire, and she cannot allow a human to become a fixture in her life. Let the girl come. Let her test the palace gates again and again. Vel will continue to strike her down until the message is received. But the next time they face off, the queen won't just be looking for a fight. She's going to tear the truth out of her, once and for all. An Aldebrand product. Even in a world filled with magic, a blade like this stands out as a symbol of status and power. But prestige comes with a price. To upgrade this weapon, one needs 20 ogre nails, materials that typically only drop on the 40th floor of the tower. For these students, the tower is a mountain that can't yet climb. Facing those creatures at their current level is a death sentence. I couldn't just stand by and watch them struggle with the basics. Knowledge is the most valuable currency in this world, and I have plenty to spare. There's a rule they don't teach in the early classes. Ogres also appear on the 20th floor. The drop rate is lower, but it's the only way to survive the grind without dying. They're stunned. To them, I'm just the guy who ranks second in the academy. They have no idea that my understanding of the tower goes far deeper than any textbook. They want to know how I became this good, how I know the secrets of the lower floors that even the elite struggle to find. I just give them a vague answer about past experience. In this life, keeping your secrets close is the only way to stay ahead of the game. Now, I need to make a clean getaway. The academy hallways are a maze, and I have a very specific person I'm trying to avoid. I've spent a lot of time perfecting the art of being invisible. One wrong turn, and I'll be caught in a web of social obligations I have no interest in. The coast seems clear. I've managed to navigate the high-traffic areas without being spotted. Now for some much-needed solitude. Mallory is likely lurking near my room. She's persistent, bordering on obsessive, and I need a place where she'll never think to look. The library is empty. It's the perfect sanctuary to escape the chaos of the academy and focus on my own private projects. Finally, peace. There's something therapeutic about putting pen to paper when you aren't worried about being ambushed by a classmate. I'm working on the second volume of my personal masterpiece when a voice cuts through the silence. My heart stops. Mallory. She's right there, looking over my shoulder with a terrifyingly calm expression. My sanctuary has been compromised.
I can't comprehend how she found me. I took every precaution, used every trick in the book to lose any tail. She casually reveals she has stealth level 5. A mage having a high-level assassin skill is a complete violation of the world's standard progression rules. She took extra classes specifically to protect the Demon Queen. Her obsession has granted her abilities that shouldn't even exist in her class. The realization hits me like a physical blow. This isn't just a crush. She's a tactical predator who has optimized her entire build just to follow people. It's beyond dangerous. If she can find me here, there is no place in this academy, or perhaps this kingdom, that is truly safe from her. She isn't here to scold me, though. She has a proposition. She wants me to join her party and head back into the Demon Tower. I try to talk sense into her. Our levels are far too low for the deeper floors. Even with her support, we'd just be adding our names to the tower's death toll. But Mallory has a different strategy. She's spent her savings to hire licensed adventurers to act as our shield. She's serious about this. Our destination is the town guild. In a world where power is everything, Mallory is proving that determination and a little bit of gold can change the rules of the game.
In the heart of the human empire lies Fulstina, a sprawling capital where the economy is built on the backs of those brave enough to face the monsters outside the walls. Mallory and Sarek navigate the crowded business district, looking less like legendary heroes and more like two students who stayed up way too late studying. Sarek stops in front of a heavy, stone-faced building. This is the goal for the day, the Town Guild. In this world, if you have the coin, you don't have to risk your own life to level up. The doors swing open, revealing the polished interior, where the business of survival is conducted daily. They are greeted with the professional, albeit cold, courtesy reserved for those who look like they have gold to spend. Mallory is already distracted, her eyes scanning for the best advantage money can buy. The guild operates like a high-stakes marketplace. Profiles of licensed adventurers are displayed like luxury goods, each with their own. The process is simple. Input your ID and select your muscle. In a world of strange rules, gold is the ultimate shortcut to power. But it's a busy afternoon. The demand for protection often outweighs the supply of capable swords. Suddenly, a rough shoulder shoves Sarek aside. An experienced adventurer with an air of unearned superiority cuts the line. Without a word of apology, he begins tapping at the terminal, his movements fast and practiced. He doesn't even look back at the students he just bulldozed. To him, they're just children playing at being warriors. Mallory watches, her expression shifting from confusion to a cold, simmering realization. The screen flashes. The two mercenaries Mallory was eyeing are officially hired. The arrogant stranger has just taken their only chance at a shield. A dark, suffocating aura begins to emanate from Mallory. It's the kind of pressure that usually precedes a natural disaster.
Sarek immediately senses the danger. He knows that when Mallory gets this quiet, something is about to break. He tries to hold her back, reminding her that getting into a fight with a licensed adventurer in the middle of the guild is a one-way ticket to a permanent ban. But Mallory has never been one for rules. She confronts the man, demanding respect for the order of the line. The man turns, flanked by the two mercenaries he just bought. He looks down at them with a smirk that says he knows exactly how much power he holds here. Mallory stands her ground, reminding them that they are students of the academy and they have legitimate business to attend to. The mention of being students only fuels their mockery. In the eyes of these veterans, academy kids are just rich brats looking for an easy ride. They laugh at the idea of students hiring help just to gather herbs or finish their homework. The guild hall fills with the sound of their derisive laughter, a social twist where the experienced prey on the ambitious. The man points a mocking finger at Sarek, ridiculing his basic equipment and calling it junk. That was his final mistake. You can insult Mallory, but insulting her best friend is a death sentence. The air in the room suddenly drops several degrees. Mallory's eyes sharpen, her gaze cutting through the man's bravado like a blade. She tells him calmly that it's a shame the only stat he's managed to level up is his own stupidity. With a forced smile, she adds that recycling garbage like him is simply her way of helping the environment. Enraged, the man lunges with a flaming fist. It's a fast, lethal strike intended to put the girly in her place. But Mallory doesn't even flinch. She watches the fist approach with the bored detachment of a master watching a novice. She casually mentions that she has a fire skill too. The only difference is the scale.
A massive magical circle erupts around her hand, glowing with a violet intensity that illuminates the entire hall. The man's eyes widen as he realizes he hasn't just picked on a student, he's picked a fight with a monster. The explosion is instantaneous. A pillar of white-hot flame consumes the space where the arrogant adventurer once stood. The rest of the guild watches in stunned silence. The sheer output of mana was enough to rattle the foundations of the building. Mallory stands amidst the smoke, her voice echoing through the quiet room. No one makes fun of her friend, period. The man is left smoking on the floor, his pride and his health bar equally decimated. With the employer now unconscious, Mallory turns to the two bewildered mercenaries. Since their contract is technically void, they're back on the market. Her tone shifts back to sweet and innocent in a heartbeat, leaving everyone in the room with a severe case of whiplash. The mercenaries can only stare in terror. They realize that following this girl might be more dangerous than any monster, but saying no isn't really an option anymore. While Mallory secures her escort, deep within the demon tower, the queen sits on her throne, her patience wearing thin as she waits for the only human who dares to chase her.
The demon tower finally looms before us, a dark spire piercing the night sky. We've made it to the threshold of the most dangerous place in the world, but the real challenge is just beginning. I'm doing my best to look like a confident leader. I tell the guys to move along, promising that we're going to show the Demon Queen exactly who's boss. But as I stop to recover some mana, a cold realization starts to set in. Something is missing from our party, and judging by Sirik's face, he's starting to realize it too. The panic hits him like a lightning bolt. Sirik screams my name, his eyes wide as he looks at our small, unbalanced group. We don't have a healer. In this world, entering the demon tower without a support mage is practically a suicide mission. We're doomed before we even step through the door. Sirik is desperate to turn back, but I can't let that happen. Canceling the quest now would mean losing my savings and my reputation at the guild. There is no retreat. I try to calm him down with a reckless proposal. I'll act as both the damage dealer and the healer. I have a basic heal spell. It's not great, but it'll have to do. I empty my inventory, showing off every healing item I've managed to save up. Potions, herbs, flowers, it's everything we have to survive the climb. Sirik knows I'm being reckless, but he also knows we're broke. He can't afford to hire a new group, so he's forced to follow my lead into the mouth of the beast. But financial ruin isn't my only motivation. There's a deeper reason why I can't turn back now. I have this nagging feeling that Queen Vel is actually waiting for me. It's the kind of hope that keeps a mage like me alive in a place like this. High above, the queen herself is feeling something, but it isn't love. It's an immense, growing irritation. She knows I'm coming, and she's already losing her patience. I need to ditch my escort if I'm going to make any real progress. I tell the mercenaries to stay behind and wait for me while I go in first. They're stunned. They're the professionals, after all. Why would the client go into a death trap alone? I quickly spin a lie about scouting the area for safety. I tell them high-level monsters can jump out of nowhere on the lower floors, and I need to be sure the path is clear. They aren't convinced. They remind me they can handle whatever comes their way, but I have one more card to play to keep them at the door. I ask them if they have enough gold for the church's resurrection services. It's a grim reminder of how this world works. Death is permanent unless you're wealthy enough to buy your soul back. The thought of losing their profits to a respawn fee makes them hesitate. I use that moment to slam the heavy doors shut, leaving them outside. The second I'm alone, the tower reveals its true nature. A demon slime hops up to greet me like an old friend. This isn't a dungeon to me, it's a social club. While other adventurers are losing their lives in brutal battles against cactus monsters, I'm just jogging through the hallways, completely unbothered. Even the demon bats wish me luck. I've spent so much time here that the monsters recognize me as a regular, not a threat. I reach the 15th floor, out of breath but determined. The air is thicker here, and the sounds of combat echo through the stone corridors. I witness a high-level demon delivering a brutal finish to an intruder. The sheer violence of the tower is on full display, but I don't flinch. The demon, Mr. Burks, simply turns and greets me. He tells me there's nothing to see and to just pass through, treating the unconscious adventurer like common trash. I tell him I'm looking for a Malathia. He agrees to lead the way, walking past a row of coffins that would terrify any normal human. I follow him, impressed by how easily he handles the tower's defenses. It's a reminder of the power gap between humans and the Queen's elite. He asks why I'm looking for Malathia instead of heading straight for the Queen. Usually I'm zipping right to the top floor. I explain that this time is different. I have a new strategy for how I'm going to finally defeat Queen Vel. To make my plan work, I'm going to need Malathia's help. If I'm ever going to win the Queen's heart, I need to start playing by the demon's rules.